Paige Bueckers has been cleared to play basketball. Will Paige play on the European trip? Now, here's where I break the YouTube fourth wall. Now, if you know anything about YouTube, I'm supposed to take a strong opinion here and say, there's no way in hell Paige Bueckers should play. You're crazy if you let her play. Or, on the other hand, damn it, Paige Bueckers has to play, and here's why. Well, in this video, I am going to throw YouTube conventions out the window, and I am going to put it to you, the viewer, to make the decision or the input on Paige Bueckers, whether she should play or not play. So I'm going to treat you like the, how should we say it, the jury, if you like, and I will put a case either way. Now, before we start, I understand it's her body and her decision and yada, yada, yada. So I understand that. We're just speculating. It doesn't do any harm. So when Paige Bueckers was asked in June, here's what she had to say regarding playing in Europe. I mean, I probably could, but we're still trying to balance worth it. So is it worth it, she said at the time. And that is the million-dollar question we are going to try to answer. So first, the case for Paige to play. Well, this is pretty simple. UConn advised that she's been cleared to practice fully. That includes 5-on-5 scrimmaging. That was the last piece in the puzzle in terms of her being cleared. Now, obviously, UConn will assess her after each of the upcoming practices. Gino Auriemma outlined the plan last saying, "Today will be Paige's first day of going up and down full court with contact and everything that goes with playing. Tomorrow will be her second, and Sunday will be her third," Auriemma said on Friday. "I think she's going to determine after these 3 days just where am I and what's my comfort level." So, if Paige doesn't suffer any setbacks like swelling or knee pain, then really the question should be, why wouldn't she play? As an injury can happen and has happened just as easily in practice. Remember, Ice Brady did her knee injury when she simply took a misstep in practice. So by wrapping Paige Bueckers up in cotton and not playing a game in the European trip, are you really mitigating much, if any, risk? In general, the timeline to return to sport following an ACL injury and surgical repair is 9 to 12 months. She is now 12 months removed from her ACL surgery. Now the biggest obstacle for her is likely psychological and having trust in her knee. So playing in Europe could offer the perfect way to bring her into games slowly and get her used to playing again. The other bonus, I don't think these games are going to be televised, so there's less pressure in these games, less exposure. Highlights will be sent out via social media. We'll probably get a few clips of her playing. It'll look much like the Yeti. We see grainy photos of her video, watching her do some sort of step through or some sort of fancy move, hopefully. And that is why you want her to play, just because it's not a televised national TV game where there's more pressure to shine and sort of put on a show for everybody. Now, the other bonus of having her play in Europe is it will allow Bueckers' teammates to get used to playing with her again. Remember, Mule, Edwards, and Griffin are the players who've gotten to play with her the most, but Fudd, Descharme, and DeBerry have had limited playing time with her, and the other 7 UConn players have never played with her. Bueckers has ball in hand and is sort of like the conductor who works the orchestra, with Auriemma saying everybody on the team is having to learn how to get used to playing with her because a lot of these guys have not been around her, Auriemma said. You can tell Auriemma is leaving the call to Bueckers, which he should, but you can tell he is keen to see what they are calling the new and improved Bueckers. You see, she has put a lot of time in the weight room. If you watch or if you look at video of her from just after her freshman year, she is basically a stick or a rake. She's super thin, and now she's clearly stronger and thicker and put a lot of work in the weight room, with Auriemma saying Paige is bigger, stronger. Paige doesn't look like the skinny little freshman that came here 3 years ago. She looks like a college player now. Auriemma went on to say She's worked incredibly hard, and all that work is for one purpose, and that's to play the game that she loves. Now, some of you at home are probably saying, let's go. Let's do this thing. Let's see the new and improved Bueckers. Let's get it on. But hold on. There are 3 arguments for her not playing that you should hear before you render your judgment or verdict on whether she should play or not to play. Now, first, there is evidence looking at recovery times from ACLs. You see, the return to sport after ACL surgery is not cut and dry. This is not a fractured arm. You're able to get it re-x-rayed and see that the fracture has healed and they're ready to play. It is generally accepted that it takes 9 to 12 months to recover from ACL surgery and return to sport. However, return to sport outcomes after ACL recons are less than optimal. Researchers are diving into cases to figure out what is going on and if there's a way to accurately predict when an athlete is ready to return to sport. This is in light of recent studies which found that 23% of young athletes recovering from ACL surgery had a re-tear rate within 12 months of surgery, and nearly half of those re-tears were non-contact injuries. Now that is alarming because it means that of all the ACLs, let's say we did 100, 23 of those patients will re-tear within the 12 months, and roughly half of those, 10 or 12 roughly, are just a misstep or something like that. But in truth, if you dig a little bit deeper, there's even some more research that actually makes me feel more optimistic about Paige Bueckers, because one of the studies found that only 11% of the patients met all of the strength criteria to be cleared for sport at the 9-month mark after surgery. Another study found that only 20% of patients demonstrated adequate muscle function 12 months after surgery. So with Bueckers, you would think that she's had every strength and conditioning imaginable. This knee has been looked at head to toe. They've done all the strength tests and things like that. So she is not in that group that hasn't fully strengthened up her knee. So her chance of not re-injuring has been optimized by her rehab program. So it's hard for me to say at 12 months. I think she's ready to go, especially if she's cleared for 5-on-5. So I think the critics would take a shot at this one, and I think they're right for taking a shot at this argument. Now, the next argument against playing is the facilities that she might be playing at in Europe. And in truth, I don't know what courts she'll be on. Is she going to be on basketball courts, the dreaded ones that have the hockey rink underneath, and sometimes you can get condensation to make the floor slippery? Again, I doubt it. I think the facilities will be good, but that would be one thing that they will obviously, and she will keep an eye on. Maybe I am just haunted by a ghost of my past. I remember Ralph Sampson. I'm a Rockets fan. Ralph Sampson tore up and ruined his knee and his career when he slipped during a game. And simply, he slipped on Terps that was on the floor to clean up marks from like a dance troupe that came out earlier in the day. They left scuff marks all over the court, so they had to clean the court, but they didn't get all of the cleaning fluid up. Sampson slipped on it, shredded his meniscus, and then they wound up doing surgery where they just took out the meniscus because it was that long ago. It's like, oh, we'll remove this. It'll be a good thing. He'll be back in the playoffs in 6 weeks' time. And then within 2 years, he had an arthritic knee and was out of the league pretty much. But again, I digress. I think that's unlikely to happen to Paige Bueckers. I think the facilities should be fine. So really, in my mind, there's really only one reason not to play her, and that is essentially it's a preseason game. Have you had the agony of losing your star player in preseason? I don't know about you, but I would feel better losing my QB in the first real game of the season, i.e. Tom Brady, versus my quarterback going down in a meaningless preseason game like Trent Green. Yes, I know it worked out for the Rams. I mean, I know they had Kurt Warner and they won the Super Bowl and everything else, but that's the exception. The loss of Bueckers potentially at any time would be catastrophic, obviously. But if you lost her again, even before the season starts, oh my God, I can't even imagine what that does to UConn. So if you ask me, I say wrap her up in cotton, let her take a lot of Instagram pics, let her practice in a controlled environment with the team. I think the goal of the European trip for UConn is not to lose any players to injuries. If that happens, then mission accomplished. As well, they'll do their team bonding. They'll be able to see the Ferrari factory and do a zip line and hopefully get along and have a good time and do a whole bunch of bonding, which in a lot of ways is the main purpose of the trip. But over to you. What do you think? Do you think Paige Bueckers should play on this European tour, or do you think they should wrap her up in cotton and make sure that she comes home safely? Leave your comments below. I want all the comments. Again, your poison is always welcome. If you like the content, then please consider subscribing. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a good night.